Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another weekly prep. And this week, we will make a quick recap, a quick review from last week's price action. It was a big week with Quad OPEX, FOMC with a new chairman, VIX expiration. We saw a lot of nice move, and we'll make a quick review of that. After that, we'll take a look at the economic calendar for the upcoming week, and we will make a full overview for the week to come. So first of all, if we take a look at NASDAQ on the daily chart from last week, it was a pretty easy week, but like last week, the weekly prep was done on Monday, so we already saw the big gap up. And this gap up from Sunday opening price, right directly on into the target I was expecting to be it this week. It was the old gap from early June. So in this case, the week was pretty much done on the upside. So after that, my main focus was for a run into the weekly opening gap. But with the FOMC on Wednesday, it was a little bit sketchy to play anything before that. So we saw the price expand into the gap, complete the gap fill for on the FOMC, and then we grind back up with Friday. Friday was a bank holiday. We were aware of that, so no trade on this day. So the main focus, and I also made another video last week just before the FOMC for giving out my my game plan for this FOMC. I was expecting like this was my main focus. It was done. After that, two scenarios. So we support on that, and I was expecting a little bit more of strength on this move up, to be honest. So we'll talk more about that for the prep this week. But this was the first scenario. The other scenario was if we expand under the gap, now we can maybe think about lower price. But at the moment, we support on the weekly gap. It's pretty much the same with ES. We were looking at also the opening gap from last week. We just sprint into that. We add a block here, not a perfect precision though, but take a look at this level. We tag it, give an OLR like a bounce, and then we expand under it, and we deliver the target on the weekly opening gap. DXY, we will talk about a lot about DXY this week. I was expecting lower prices, to be honest. Last week, if we take a look at the plan that I gave you, I talk about this opening gap. Same, like if we flip it, yeah, it's bullish. But at first, I was expecting lower price. That's it for last week. I don't think we need to take too much time about it. The main focus was on NASDAQ and on S&P. Those move was pretty clean, to be honest. Little bit sketchy, like I said, because of the FOMC and the bank holiday. But at the end of the week, we tag our target. So if we take a look at this week economic calendar, it's pretty simple this week. Honestly, no big news. We have nothing to worry about on Monday. So yes, some news from Canada with the CPI. Always interesting to follow that, but nothing on the US side. On Tuesday, we have some PMI, so this is important, around 945. No news on Wednesday. We have the PCE price index with the GDP on Thursday. Very important. We all know that the PCE price index is the main focus for inflation. It's the most important number that the Fed worried about. Personally, and as a trader, we love the CPI, but the PCE is more important. On Friday, we have consumer sentiment, so this could be also a good moment to trade around 10 a.m. So that's it. Now, if we take a look at the full game plan for this week, I think it could be an interesting week, of course, but probably an easy week. And when I say easy, I doesn't mean that it will be like easy money. I think the bias this week will be easy. But before being easy. We have to be a little bit more patient. I think the first move this week is probably a move I don't want to play. In some cases, the first move is really easy to spot and we can play it, and then after that we will like take a bigger decision. But for this week, I'll be very patient. Let's take a look at the monthly chart for before going down on lower time frame. I show you that chart last week also. But for the month of June, at the moment, we are near the opening price. And if we can, you see the big wick that we made since the beginning of the month. If I show you on a daily chart, we print the wick here. It was something we called out earlier this month. The reaction was nice. And at the moment, if we go back on the monthly chart, we have a possibility that this candle can expand higher and form like a bigger body on bigger green body, and that of course would give us new all-time highs. I'm not necessarily focusing only on that, but just be aware of the opening price on the June. This is interesting for more information this week. If we take a look at the weekly chart, we start to be like a little bit in a small consolidation. I'm not calling that necessarily a range because this retracement was pretty clean into this AVG on the weekly chart, like I just showed you earlier. And then we have the gap up from last week. We wick into it. And just to make sure you follow, this candle is not good. It's like the candle from last Friday, bank holiday. I don't know why TradingView showed that candle like a new week, but this candle is not good. So the first main focus for this week, of course, it will be last week high, last week low. Of course, the last all-time high. We still focusing on new all-time high on continuation. It's not our job to call any top at the moment. You know that with the VIX expiration and with the quad OPEX from last week, we entered like in a small window of 5 to 10 session where we can maybe see the flow less supportive in this market. So I'm a little bit like divide on that because I wish we had maybe put some down close candle under last week gap after the FOMC. If it was the case, my main focus and the bias this week would have been very, very easy to focus on lower prices for 5 to 10 session in the post-OPEX window. But we showed some kind of strength over it. Nothing crazy, but if we go on the 1 hour chart, you see we grind all the way up. We tagged the block, and then it was the bank holiday from Friday. So here's the easy game plan for the week. When you have, and maybe I will make a full YouTube video about, it's not a strategy, but it's something to be aware of, and it can provide a very, very nice opportunity. But when you have a bank holiday like last Friday, you need to identify, of course, the high and the low of this session. Those prices tend to be reclaimed very, very quickly. So you can expect, like if we go up first, I think this high, of course, will be very an easy target to target. So around 30,770 will be the first target on the upside. Take a look at 30,830. I think we can see maybe if we go up first, I think we should expect a rejection here and targeting the low from the bank holiday. So it's very rare that a bank holiday provide any swings high or low. So you can always expect that next session or maybe 1 to 2 session after a bank holiday, both the highs and the lows from a bank holiday will be taken out. So this is my first focus this week. I will try to play. I will probably wait to see which highs or which swing we want to take first, and after that I will maybe play the reversal for targeting the opposite side. So that's the case if we go up first. If we go down first, like I said, with the window of non-strength following the OPEX, I'll be a little bit more cautious trying to long anything into a dip. But the first focus on the downside will be low from Friday bank holiday, 30,000, around 30,400. That will be my first focus on the downside. We have two cycle there, so we need to see some expansion below 30,300. If we do that, I think we can maybe focus on at least the gap fill from Thursday session and probably previous week low. And around the previous week low, we will have some kind of decision to make. But if we expand below this low, I think we should respect it as like a resistance and see a small continuation lower. Again, I'm not calling it up now. I wish we could add. I wish we could have like a small pullback, maybe 1 week of pullback, and then when the flow returns 1 week from now, I think we should expect a continuation higher, like a grind all summer long, like I already discussed so many times in the previous preparation. So that's my plan for this week on NASDAQ. Of course, if we have like some discussion with the deal from Iran, you already know my opinion about that. I think I don't want to say it's fake, but I'm not really confident that this deal will stay in place. So, of course, this can bring some, I don't want to say unexpected volatility, because personally, I expect that this deal is crap, but it can maybe shake this week plan if we have some news about that. So that's it. Of course, if we have a gap up at the opening from Sunday and we are already on new all-time highs by like Monday or Tuesday, I will be very cautious. I'm expecting the price to follow through on the upside, but it will be maybe a little bit sketchy if we see that. So that's it for NASDAQ. If we take a look at the S&P 500, it's pretty much the same. Again, maybe a little wider from the all-time high, but it's only 2%. So pretty much the same. If you look at the monthly chart, be aware of June opening price. If we can expand over it, I think we will follow through. So that's it. If we look at 1 hour chart to be more precise, we have to see expansion over 7,583. If we can expand over that, I would expect a support from from the previous zone and follow through higher. First target on the upside will be 7,600. After that, 7,640, and after that, of course, new all-time highs could be in play. On the downside, we have the same gap from NASDAQ from Thursday, so be aware of, if we look at 1 hour chart again, be aware of this gap. Let me show you. So this into the old weekly opening gap also. So this is important. It's the same concept from like I told you on NASDAQ with the bank holiday. So be aware of the high and the low from Friday's session. In my opinion, it's pretty easy to target those swings. So that's it. If we want to be confident in lower prices, we need to see some expansion below the gap from Thursday, like I said. So we need to see some expansion under 7,500, and we need to lose previous week low with conviction. So it's not something I would love to see that, to be honest, but it's not something I am expecting necessarily like with a lot of confidence. Something that probably is the most important thing this week, and it was the same on the FOMC, it's DXY. So US dollar is on a pretty, it's a big breakout at the moment, and I was, if you remember, like 2 weeks ago, I was expecting higher price on the XY, but this rejection on 1 hour chart here from 2 weeks ago, you see this big, like we tried to break a couple times, like here, here, here. Okay, we break without any conviction and we dump. So this rejection for me was like a fake out, and I was expecting with the gap down, we rally back up. I was expecting lower price here. But with the FOMC, pretty hawkish, no surprise there. We completely explode on the upside and we follow through after that. So if you look before, like during the FOMC, the DXY was not slowing at all, and we had like a rally on NASDAQ before dumping. So DXY, like the good old time, was very, very clean. Big divergence with the indices, and this follow through, I don't want to say it's surprising me, but it's very important for the upcoming week. So if we see like a big continuation and a strong move higher on the XY, I will not look for longs on indices. It's pretty simple. But if the XY dump and want to come back into the beginning of the breakout from the FOMC, of course, we will be very interested for longs on indices. So that's it for DXY. A look at the VIX. Same here. Since the vol spike from 3 weeks ago, the vol got crushed. We had a little bit of strength here on the FOMC, but again, we crush it back down. So if the VIX continue to crush, of course, you don't want to short on NASDAQ and S&P. The yields, pretty quiet on the FOMC, but they still around 4.4%, so pretty interesting to see where we want to go next. You already know my opinion about that. I expect higher prices on the yields, but not necessarily now, not necessarily this summer. So just be aware that the yields are pretty high at the moment. Just a look at Russell, because after FOMC, you want to see how the small caps react, and they are the strongest of the four indices. So it's interesting to see that. Be aware of this gap. If we are not able to hold this and follow through on the upside, and we snap back down, maybe we can expect lower price into this lows. So if we see that, it's something that can confirm a bearish bias on NASDAQ and on S&P. So this is interesting. We can take a look at the Dow also. So I gave it to you last week. If you look at 1 hour chart, he was the strongest by far. But I told you that if we can see the weekly gap on NASDAQ and on S&P, I would maybe try to short the Dow for the same run. But NASDAQ and S&P would have, I wish we had seen like expansion below for me to short the Dow. It was not the case, so no play for me at this moment. So that's it. Quick look at SpaceX, because it's nice to follow that. Crazy vol on this. If we take a look at the 1 hour chart, so after like 2 days of pump, last Tuesday, we finally saw weakness on that. I'll be very cautious trying to short that early on. I think in the near futures we should see price continue lower, but for now I would probably just like scalp that, day trade that cautiously at the moment. So that's it. I forget about gold. Let's talk about gold, because gold, honestly, my bias is bearish on that. I was expecting this bounce. I was probably not expecting that much strength though. We respect that FEG, we reject it, and I would like to see 4,000 to be tapped this week. So if we can maybe have like a quick bounce to start the week, I will probably look to short around 4,250 to see a continuation lower. And for the crude oil, we will finish with that. Of course, with the deal, the crude sell off, we lose the gap. I told you that I liked the longs around 80, so still loving the longs on that. I'm not trusting the deal with Iran, so I am expecting a probably higher price on crude. It's not something I trade a lot, but for a swing, I think it can be interesting at those levels. So that's it for the prep. I hope you enjoyed that. The 7-day trial for Discord is in the description, so click the link below and come trade with us. We are live 5 days a week.